Roguelite deck builders have been a fairly popular subgenre, sparked by the runaway success and often tracing their roots back to Slay the Spire from 2019, with the latest and greatest being Wildfrost. However, rather than blindly copying, the developers inverted some key concepts and played to their strengths, which resulted in more than $1 million gross on Steam only within the first 2 weeks since release. Not bad for a team of just 2 people, Will from Deadpan Games as the programmer, who made the excellent Cave Blazers, and Gazeta, a very talented artist who worked on games like Forager, where they met online during the pandemic and made this game remotely, which is an amazing accomplishment in its own right. I've studied this game and found a 3-step formula that has resulted in their success, beginning with the art style. Visuals in games are an often debated topic, but close your eyes for just a second and open them to gaze upon this beauty. What are your first impressions of this game? Clearly, it has a cartoony, hand-drawn look, with character designs that would not be out of place in Adventure Time, the massively popular series from Cartoon Network, so that immediately shows that the developers put thought into their world and the characters within, perhaps even stealing some of that massive audience from that show who just so happens to be interested in deck builders as well. In a Reddit AMA, the artist has acknowledged the Adventure Time influence since that is their favourite animated series, so take it as a recommendation from them and me to watch it if you have not. The same post acknowledges some influences from other popular indie games which can be seen in the shop, so see if you can spot them for yourself. The art versus gameplay debate has been raging on, where Minecraft is the prime example of why graphics don't matter, but I'm of the opinion that it does, especially in this genre. Deck builders and card games by nature do not require 3D models, mostly focusing on the art on the cards itself, so if the other titles on the market are generic or uninteresting looking in comparison, this immediately gives Wildfrost an advantage. Visuals, of course, are not the full picture for a video game, which brings us to step 2, Subverting Expectations. There are 5 key factors that have to do with game design, where the most prominent is the distinct lack of a main character or hero. Wildfrost takes place in a world of everlasting winter, where the sun has frozen over and you need to find out why, where the remnants of civilization have gathered in the last bastion, having 3 distinct factions which play quite differently. However, as adventurers venture into the wilderness and inevitably fall in combat, the mantle has to be passed on to a new hero, no magical resurrections in this game, which I always appreciate when developers weave it into their story. As such, your leader character for each run is procedurally generated, so instead of having a pre-designed character or hero like in Slay the Spire, you have to choose and adapt based on the randomly generated statistics. What I do have to say is that each clan, like the clans in Monster Train, do feel distinct and have their own mechanics, such as the Snow Dwellers, who rely on snow to first slow down enemies and then fire peppers to boost their attacks, the Gnome faction of the Clunk Masters, who have to use otherwise useless junk cards to fuel their abilities, and the ever-fun Shade Mancers faction, which involves summoning and sacrificing units. The level of unpredictability keeps the gameplay fresh and engaging, although it does bring about some level of frustration due to the so-called RNG or luck factor if you do not get a good roll of leaders to choose from. However, that is where the genius of the design comes in with their countdown timer system. This is the distinguishing factor for the game, where all units which are placed on the board have a timer, which counts down by 1 every turn, where a unit only attacks and activates its abilities when this reaches 0. They took the idea of perfect information from games like Into the Breach and Slay the Spire, where those games revealed what action your enemies would do next, but took it a step further in allowing you to predict and strategize many turns in advance, rather than just on the turn itself like in those other games. As such, there was a lot of this. As I tried to figure out the optimal course of action, of which enemies to target and what cards to play, since of course the timer can be manipulated with various abilities. This fits in nicely with their positioning system in that the game allows up to 6 units to be on the board at any one time, but at any time and without penalty, you're able to move the units around, placing a more vulnerable unit at the back, switching lanes to target specific enemies and more. Most tactics titles will penalize you for that, costing you a precious turn while the enemies continue to wail on your units, but not in Wildfrost. As such, it's a little bit more forgiving in one sense, but that is in service of the brutal combat, where you can lose to some of the bosses rather easily, especially if your strategy is not up to par. On a more meta level, with regards to progression, you'll notice that there's no relic system in this game. Relics or items have been a mainstay in roguelites, even going back to games like The Binding of Isaac, where these grant you permanent upgrades within a run, and additionally, the current trend in this genre is to have some sort of meta currency that carries over from run to run, allowing you to upgrade and slowly get more powerful, whether it be 5% increase in HP, adding an extra dash and so on, but again, that is not the case here. While you do have in-run upgrades, these take the form of charms and crowns, which you can add to individual cards without a single relic in sight. Where other games award XP for defeating a certain number of enemies which leads to the next unlock, Wildfrost instead chose to go the achievement route, having to kill X number of enemies in a specific way, allowing you to learn about and explore the different mechanics of the game. It is definitely different from other modern titles, since in those, with enough grinding, you will most probably be able to beat the game, but not in this case, where theoretically, you may still be able to beat Wildfrost using the starter deck, which is an alternate school of design when it comes to such games. In the same Reddit AMA, the artists did also share that they did not play any deck builders prior to making this game, and while they did eventually get around to Slay the Spire, it's important to see how you can be influenced by something without copying it wholesale, as seen in the deluge of energy system-based deck builders. This brings us to the all-important marketing factor, where this game has had quite an interesting trajectory. Again, we will be using SteamDB followers as an approximation of wishlists, where right out of the gate when it was first revealed, this got to 700 plus followers within 2 weeks, much more than many indie games get in their lifetimes, followed by a small spike in June, a huge one in October due to the Steam Nix Festival, and reached 8,600 before its release. I would attribute this to publisher Chucklefish, who have curated a catalogue of excellent games, with the visuals and first impressions being critical as well. The developers also had an unfair advantage, since their artist has over 170,000 followers on Twitter, so even if only 1% of that audience is interested in games, at $20 a pop, that's $34,000 gross, which is not too shabby, where the developers are looking at balancing bug fixes, additional language support and more content, so it's likely to become an even bigger success, where if you loved this breakdown, watch this video on the insane success of Dredge.